So it was back in the early 90s. The wall had come down late 89. I'd had a fascination with Eastern Europe particularly. Had a good friend who was a missions director who were going in and out of the Eastern Bloc countries in the good old bad old days, as we call them. And so I'd asked him in late 90s, is there any chance I could come on a trip with you into Eastern Europe? So he agreed. He had a van. There's 5 or 6 of us jumped in the van, drove into Europe, Belgium, Holland, Germany, into Czechoslovakia as it was then, because the split hadn't happened until 93. And then up into southern Poland, did a small conference there, then down into Hungary. Exposed to incredible amounts of need and opportunity. On the way back, coming through Austria, felt some deep passion within me, began to pray on the inside, God, you've got to do something to help these people. You've got to do something. And I just heard the voice come back to me, said, then why don't you do something? I said, I can't possibly do anything. At that time I was leading a youth movement in England. It was going extraordinarily well. 10 to 12,000 kids turn out at events, using teenagers to plant churches all over the world, leadership training events across the UK with hundreds and hundreds of leaders. Just couldn't possibly do any more. And so the Lord said to me, then quit. So I says, quit. So these people give me money every month. They give me a car. They give me a secretary to make me look much better than where I am. I can't possibly quit. And the Lord said, then you said someone's got to do something. And so I wrestled with this thought. We were driving through Austria at the time. Got home, not long been married. I felt sure my get out of jail card would be Judith, my wife. When I told her, she'd probably say, don't be so stupid. So told her what had happened, told her what I felt the Lord was saying. And she says, you know, Ian, if that's what the Lord is saying, that's what we need to do. I got one question. Who's going to pay us? And so tongue-in-cheek, I said, well, I guess if the Lord is calling, he is going to pay. And so I spoke to our leadership team of the youth movement that I was leading. They really wanted me to continue to do both. It was impossible. So gave back the salary, gave back the car, tried to hang on to my secretary, but they wanted her too. And we kind of launched out in this huge step of faith. We had no personal supporters, no project supporters. And we were going to do some training in southern Poland, which would include leaders from Czech Republic, Slovakia, or Czechoslovakia, and Poland coming together. And then we were going to do some training down in Hungary. So I'd spoken to a number of friends and asked them would they come and help me train these new emerging leaders. So very excitedly they said yes. And I said, okay, then you need to bring some money with you, because we're going to have to pay for train fares, accommodation, food, hotels, because the economy is so desperate. There's absolutely not a chance these guys are going to be able to pay their own way. So that was all good up until about 10 days before I'm due to leave, and one of the brothers ring me up and says, Ian, I'm really sorry, I can't make that conference. I says, mate, you can't do that to me, it's 10 days away. He said, no, I can't come. I says, okay, well then just send your money. So he says, another problem, I have no money to send either. I said, my gosh, you were a blessing at 7 o'clock in the morning. And so we were 10 days out, about $2,000 short, and I just said, Lord, you know, Lord, if you're in this, I'm speaking all over the UK in the next 10 days. I'm not going to mention this to anybody, because if you want this to happen, you've got the money to make it happen. So preached everywhere, come to my final meeting, no money. I'm speaking in a very conservative Baptist church in Wolverhampton, England, and it was going charismatic that night. There were bodies everywhere. The pastor was panicking. He didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. I left that service, got home, changed my clothes. Van picks me up, drives me to Dover. We're on the ferry going to Zeebrugge, and I realize I'm $2,000 short for all these people. I got hotel bills to pay, food to pay, train expenses to pay. And so I become a little anxious, and that kind of motivates me to pray. And so I'm praying and calling upon the Lord, and nothing is seemingly happening. I pull out some notes that I made when I met some leaders at a church in England, and they had part of the thing they said to me, and as you go into Europe, God will throw money on your lap so you can bless the brothers as they go. That fueled me up. It says, God, this is where my lap is. If you don't know where my lap is, it's right. You just send money. I'm speaking in tongues. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm really going for it. And after about 45 minutes, nothing happened. Wave of the flesh comes over me. I think there has to be somebody on this boat carrying $2,000. Jesus, why don't you lead me to them? I can mug them in your name. But the Lord didn't seem to be that flexible. So got up, got in the van, drove to Frankfurt, picked up some brothers from the US that were flying in, then drove on into Austria, and that night we're rooming up. One of the guys I'm rooming up with from America, he's just a little weird, heavily into prayer, and so yeah, just a little strange. Get into the room, and then he starts telling how what God has been saying, how God has been speaking to him, and 3 days ago the Lord really gave him a clear picture of what he needed to do on the trip. He says, actually, 3 days ago God said to me, the brothers there in Eastern Europe, they've got some needs, and you need to take an extra $2,000. Do you know anything about that? I says, Dave, throw that money right here, my friend. Throw it right on my lap. And that was a sealing moment for us, because it put the supernatural seal upon what we were doing. This wasn't my idea. It wasn't a good idea. It was God at work wanting to help to train a whole new generation of leaders right across Europe. And that supernatural component has been a very telling part for our ministry. We have often planned things, done things where there's been no obvious resource, but just with a gut confidence that we feel that God is telling us to do it, we move forward and we see the provision of the Lord in a remarkable way. So we are a faith-based ministry. We're a faith-based organization. All of our staff live by faith. We don't have any fat cats bankrolling us. But what we do, we get the mind of the Lord, the word of the Lord, and we go forward with a deep passion that Jesus is interested in turning Europe back to himself. And so that was the beginning of Next Level International as we started our ministry in Europe. And of course, now over recent years, over 7,000 leaders have been systematically trained, over 150 churches, new churches, functioning churches planted right throughout Europe. But we have a passion and a desire to be in 48 nations of Europe by 2020, and we believe that's going to happen. Love you to be a part of the story. Come and join us. Be a part of creating history.